It's 12 o'clock. What's going on? All right. That's another first today. Live music here on WLGR, LaGuardia Web Radio. The show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, and my guests today are two professors for the Humanities Department's music program, the director of that program, Tom Dempsey, on guitar, and Professor Dr. Will Fulton, who's a music historian, history teacher, professor. And I joked earlier before you came on, Will, that we should have given you the opportunity to do a turntablist outro, a skit, little scratch, something or other at the end. Maybe when we have you on next time. I can't hear you, by the way. You're muted, Will. Am I?
Tom and I would need rehearsal to do a What's Going On, turntable and guitar duo.
Oh, you would do it together. That would be amazing. And there was a piece there when Tom was strumming that felt a little like there was a funk thing going on there, where he was like, doo, 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 doo. But sorry, excuse me.
There's always a funk little thing going on.
There's a little. They all come from all the streams.
That's right,
intertwined. This show's gonna be a little bit different because we're all pretty. We see each other quite a bit. We hang around, so there's a little bit of familiarity. But I did talk a little bit about how I typically run the show. So why don't we start with that? Gentlemen, would you like to talk a little bit about your backgrounds and education and things like that?
Sure. So I grew up in upstate New York, in Binghamton, New York, and at the time when I was a kid living there, it was actually a very rich community musically. One of the really legends of the music, his name is Slam Stewart, bass player, ended up retiring in Binghamton, and as part of what he did in his retirement, he would come and play in the schools. And so I remember Slam Stewart coming when I was in kindergarten to my school to play jazz. And I didn't know what jazz was or anything else like that. I just knew he was the cool guy playing the bass who sang Flatfoot Flugie. And but I also had a lot of really great friends growing up that played music, and we all played together, and a lot of them are doing this professionally now. Then when I left Binghamton, I went to Mason Gross School of the Arts, which is part of Rutgers University, and got my undergraduate degree there in jazz studies. And then right after, I knew I was going to move to New York. So I moved to New York and freelanced for a couple of years, and then started my master's degree and finished at Manhattan School of Music. And yeah, and then I've been basically playing and all over the place for many years, and teaching too. Teaching has always been a big part of what I do. For me as a musician, I feel like it's all one thing. It's not like, you know, to be a musician means to be a performer, a composer, an educator, a publisher. You know, there's lots of different things that to me fall under the umbrella of the vocation of being a musician, an advocate, arts advocate, all sorts of, you know, different kinds of responsibilities. So I came to LaGuardia in 2011 as an adjunct, and then started full-time at LaGuardia in 2012. And it's been a great experience. It's also been great to see how the music program has really just blossomed in the time that I've been there. When I came to the school, you know, the only degree-bearing program in music was the music recording technology program. And we've essentially built up a conservatory-based music major. We now articulate with Brooklyn College, and which means that, you know, the level of instruction that we're providing for our students is really on the same level as conservatory-based programs within the CUNY system, like the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music or Queens College or City College, and many others too within CUNY. So it's really been a great journey and experience to watch the music program grow and develop over the past 8+ years.
Will, yeah, take a turn.
Well, first, that's a hard act to follow, but so my journey to LaGuardia was, you know, an odd kind of circle. You know, I grew up in the Boston area and first became involved in two strands of music in the 1980s. One of them was hip hop and one of them was punk rock. I was a guitarist in a punk rock band, and I was also, listening to hip hop. And these two things were, you know, it was kind of normal for people in my peer group at that time that those two things would be interwoven, similar to the trajectory of the, you know, something like the Beastie Boys, who were a little older but doing similar things in New York City. But when I, was listening to Run DMC and stuff when I was coming out, and that had a big impact, as well as, you know, but I was playing in punk rock bands. And then when I went to college, I started DJing and started interning at hip hop record labels in New York City, because I went to college at Sarah Lawrence, which is outside of the Bronx, and started interning at various hip hop labels and wanted to go into the music business, which I did directly after college. I got into the music business and worked at a couple different labels in New York that specialized in hip hop, and one was called TVT Records, and the other was called Profile Records. And by the time I was 23 26 or 27, I was called in to work on what I didn't know at the time was going to end up being the last Run DMC album. So it ended up in this interesting circle. The first circle, I would say, of that that I was, working with Run DMC after growing up listening to them as a kid, and then after that. Label eventually got sold to a major label. Is what happened to a lot of the independent labels in the 1990s is they got sold to major labels. So I went and formed my own independent production company and became a producer and did that for about 10 years until a friend of mine said, you do recording, why don't you come and teach? And I said, well, I don't really have a music degree. I've got a literature degree, and I don't really have a degree in music recording. He said, yeah, but you've been doing it for 10 years. You could, so I got a book and I learned how to, I learned how recording is taught. And then I went and became an adjunct instructor. My first job was in Westchester Community College in Peekskill. And then they said, well, if you want to continue to teach, you should get your master's degree. I said, okay. So I looked into that, and there was a local college here, Brooklyn College. And without realizing it, I ended up at Brooklyn College in their Institute for the Study of American Music, which is exactly the kind of things that I was interested in doing. And I didn't know that you could do a music program centered around American music. So I got my master's at Brooklyn. And while I was getting my master's, they said, "Oh, you should get your PhD." And I said, "All right." So after years in the music business, I was in graduate school, and went to CUNY, and they recommended that I go to CUNY to get my PhD. And I started my PhD at CUNY. And during the time while I was working on my PhD at CUNY, Professor Lisa Desmain from LaGuardia was looking for somebody to teach American music, and actually went to Brooklyn College to the Institute for American Music and to discuss, do you have anybody that could come and teach American music, and what should we be doing? And somebody there recommended me, and so I was hired as an adjunct at LaGuardia in 2013. And was an adjunct for a year before a line opened up, and I applied and became a full-time in 2014. And first thing I thought of doing, well, I want to create some liberal arts courses, which was my charge there. And while working on a hip-hop course, I found out an interesting factoid that, lo and behold, just to bring the story full circle a second time, lo and behold, that Run from Run DMC had been a student at LaGuardia for a short time. And I thought, wow, isn't this fascinating that by accident, these things kept leading me back in these interesting circles. And so and that was just an interesting way to connect LaGuardia locally to this larger culture of hip hop history in New York that I was currently writing about. So, and that's pretty much my story. I've been at LaGuardia now for 6 years, and this semester is probably the most interesting of all the semesters for various reasons. But it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, and I think that in my familiarity, I failed to mention that the whole show is really about the LAGCC Spring Music Showcase at Home, which is the show that the two of you have put together, and will be streaming today, starting at 5 o'clock? Is it
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. Pardon me. There's so many things going on today, and I've got my schedule and everything else going on. So 7 o'clock. And we should probably at some point share that link with folks who are watching as well. If I didn't share it in my announcement, but maybe I'll follow up with that as well. Let's talk a little bit about the music program, though, because with the showcase, what you're doing is basically sharing all of the amazing things that are going on with the program. And like you said, it has blossomed. I mean, I remember, I've been here obviously longer than you guys, and I don't remember much except, of course, the music recording program, which had this piece of that, you started here and you finished it off with a downtown school. It was a very good program, a little pricey, but a good program. And I mean, I interacted with it. In the old days, we called it the Spring Jam, where I used to be the MC of that with Mark Brooks. But this is, like you said, the program, when Lisa Despain, which we mentioned, who is the former director of the program, and an amazing musician herself, jazz musician, performer, composer, educator. Let's talk about the program a little bit and all the different, all the amazing things that you offer.
Well, so the program itself, I mean, it serves actually people from several different kinds of interests and walks of life. Obviously, we've developed this performance-based program where students can take essentially the equivalent of the freshman and sophomore year curriculum at Brooklyn Conservatory, the same basic curriculum they can take with us. And so that means they're taking 30 credits of music classes and 30 credits of liberal arts classes. Within those 30 credits of music classes, they're getting 2 semesters of music theory, 2 semesters of ear training, 4 semesters of group piano class, 3 semesters of ensemble, and 3 semesters of private lessons, which is really the big thing. You know, I used to teach at SUNY New Paltz as an adjunct years ago, and I remember when students would try to transfer from a community college to SUNY New Paltz, they wouldn't be able to, they'd have to kind of start more from the beginning because they didn't have that private instruction piece. So to be able to offer that at LaGuardia really takes our students, who many of which have learned how to play their music either through their family or through the church, or not in a formal academics setting, and take those students who have the talent, have the drive and the desire, but maybe need a little bit more kind of one-on-one coaching and more preparation to be able to take an audition at a conservatory-based program. They can come to us, they can get that training, and then they can move on and not have their education delayed, because they didn't have that academic training. So to be able to do that is great. We also have a number of students who are in other disciplines throughout the college who are taking music classes, who are in our vocal classes, who are in our guitar classes, even taking piano classes. So while this concert, yes, it does showcase our music performance students and our and some of our music recording technology students, it's really for the whole college. There are many students who are in this performance that are not music majors, but are involved in various music classes. And besides the fact that this showcase concert is, inclusive of people from all different parts of the college, it's also a really diverse presentation. When you check it out tonight, I mean, there's hip-hop pieces next to pieces by Rachmaninoff. There's singer-songwriter pieces. There's all sorts of different things, and different people in different sorts of levels. We have some of our students from our beginning piano classes who are doing performances on this concert, along with, really very impressive music majors who are, playing music.
More advanced.
Yeah, Bach and more advanced things. So it's really, it sort of speaks to the whole community that I feel like is so special at LaGuardia.
Remembering the live performances last year in the little theater, I remember one of the performances. There was a real crowd pleaser was coming from the club, which I think you run, right, Will?
Yeah, so I'm the faculty mentor of the music club, and the music club does actually have a group performance tonight. That's a little bit something special because they managed to do. There's different ways in which people are doing group performances at social distance. One way is the kind of boxes way that we're seeing now, where we're all kind of in a box together on a screen, and you can't play music live like that because there's a lag in the audio. But there are apps like acapella that people use to sync up different live performances and put them together. But for the music club tonight has actually directed a music video that juxtaposes and filters different performances so that the people look as if they're standing together, but they're actually recorded individually, both the audio and video. It's really, I think it's going to be really cool and something different to contribute. But yeah, it's definitely the music club is a good outlet for students because they come up with a repertoire, because they it's something that is definitely expands outside of just the music majors to a general college community that wants to play a little music. And so we try to create as many opportunities for students to do that. In fall 2019, we had the first hip hop showcase that was a result of a LaGuardia hip hop concert. So we constantly trying to create different ways for students to express themselves musically, in whether or not they're music students or music technology students or accounting students that just want to play some music. We try to create as many of those avenues as we can, and so the student showcase at home is another way. I mean, we're in this incredibly difficult circumstance, and it's another way to kind of work around that in order to get students to find an avenue in which they can show what they're working on and show their talent.
Yeah, it makes me think, it's great when you see somebody, like you said, somebody who's a non-major coming in. It reminded me of Condoleezza Rice, who I think had a string quartet she played with regularly. So it made me feel good about her, even though I never agreed with her politically. I want to mention, and by the way, while you were talking, I remembered there is a piece of the music program I remember before Lisa's tenure, John Williams, whose photograph we keep in the music program space, who was one of the founders of the music program and a great tenor, by the way. So shout out to that historically. One of the things I like about the music program that has been happening is adapting to our students. So for example, the recording program, when there were issues with the outside institution, we were able to bring it into the college proper, and not to mention make it much more affordable. Also, Will and I, we worked a little bit, and I've watched Will first, like you were talking about, the hip hop class that you put together, and also bringing back the Latin music, or the world music with the world music class, but eventually the Latin music class. You want to talk a little bit about that? Programs in response to our population.
So yeah, when I first got to LaGuardia, there were two active liberal arts music classes, and that was Intro to Music and American Music, and they're both very good classes. Intro to Music covers the history of Western classical music, and American Music covers blues, jazz, rock. Blues, jazz, rock, and what have you, and they're both very strong classes. But with our student population, we've got something like, and somebody could probably tell these numbers better than me, something like a 14% people of European descent in the student body of LaGuardia. We've got a population that really reflects the world, and of course a very large Latin and Latinx population, and so we wanted to expand the offerings. There was not a world music class on the books. The world music class was the first class that I created for LaGuardia, and that was an opportunity to say, and this is the way I do it with the students. We we start with the map and look at the areas that are currently discussed in those first two classes, which were continental Europe and the continental United States, and we say, look, this is such a small portion of the world's map. Let's expand this out, so the world music class literally tries to address continents and areas that in countries and genres that aren't touched on in those areas, specifically starting out in India, moving to the Middle East, then moving to East Asia for China and Japan, and then moving to sub-Saharan Africa. After examining 3 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, we moved to Spain to think about the connection between the Middle East and North Africa, and the music of southern Spain with flamenco music, and then look at that move to the colonies, starting with Cuba, to consider both the African diaspora and the impact of Spanish colonialism on Latin America, starting with Colombia, then moving to the Dominican Republic, continuing our discussion of the African diaspora with Jamaica, and then finally moving to a larger discussion of the transnational musical style of reggaeton, which touches on New York, Panama, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and what have you. This semester, because we had a slightly shorter semester, we did not get to our usual discussion of Brazil and Argentina, but luckily, it's also the first semester that a revived Latin American Music of Latin America course is available and running. So that is being taught by Ryan Mann Hamilton. It's a course that did exist in the book that I put revised the syllabus and the course proposal, and we got it up and running as part of our Hugo and I are part of a National Endowment for the Humanities grant to expand and enrich the Latin American studies at LaGuardia, and that class was developed or revised as part of that. But this is a nice pivot because there's another course that was also on the books that is a liberal arts course that is being taught as well, which is being taught by our own program director, Professor Tom Dempsey, which is the Intro to Jazz course. And maybe Tom could give us a little bit of info on that.
You're doing my job now, Will, but thank you. Tom, you're on.
I'm on. So as Will so eloquently said, and you can tell by listening to him that he's written a few course proposals in his day.
Oh, he's a writing machine.
Yeah.
Well, publishing machine too.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So Will did rewrite and revise the Intro to Jazz course, HUM 110, and which I have been teaching for the first time this semester, which is really kind of a deep dive into really the study and the development of this music that we call jazz, commonly called jazz, that came from New Orleans, but came through New Orleans, but basically because New Orleans is a port city, and at that time you had this infusion of Western European culture, African culture, and West Indian culture all coming in through the port of New Orleans, and all of these people living together on top of one another, and you had this gumbo, this musical gumbo that was evolving at the time. And so we studied the development of the music and all the way up to just about the present. We got to about the 1990s. We didn't quite get all the way to the, because of, as Will was saying, the situation with this semester. Didn't quite get completely to the finish line, but we did really, got really far in. And I have to say, the students in this class were amazing. There was really great discussion that happened. We were supposed to be a 3-hour lecture class that met once a week, and originally my intent was to do that, and then as I got closer to the time we were going to start to do it that way, I was like, no one wants to sit in front of a computer screen and stare at me talking for 3 hours. So we kind of mixed it up with some asynchronous and synchronous content. So we would meet for an hour and a half to 2 hours a week, and then I had video lectures. But really the discussion and the way that these students were listening to the music, to watch that evolve over time in this not new platform, but in the platform that we were using, was really, really special.
Yeah, there's been a lot of lessons that we've been learning this year. as a result of what's been going on. By the way, it's 12:29. The show is What's Going On here on LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. And my guests today are Professors Tom Dempsey and Will Fulton from the music program in the Humanities Department. And they're here to talk about the LAGCC Summer Music Showcase at home. Tonight at 7 o'clock, it'll be streaming. So let's do the deep dive into what folks can expect to see tonight, and let's talk a little bit about it, or inceptions, possibly even the idea behind it. As I mentioned before, there used to be the Spring Jam, and I know that there's also the faculty concerts that you guys do, but this is something that you've kind of turned into something a little different, right?
Yeah, well, yes, we had to turn this into something different. One of the things that I like to have as part of this program is a space for our really world-class faculty to be able to perform and really demonstrate what they do for our students. And then to let them know that when at the end of the semester, they're going to have the space to show us what they do. And I think that's a really important thing. Music can be taught, but it's obviously, but it's also about a certain level of mentorship. And to be able to provide those kinds of opportunities for our students, I think, is really important. Now, giving credit where credit is due, Will was the one who came to me shortly after the Global Citizens concert that happened on television, I guess back in March, and said, I think literally like a day or two later, he texted me and said, "Hey, why don't we do like a Global Citizens for our student showcase concert?" And and that's really it was born. And we sort of figured out how we were going to, put it all together. We didn't want to make it mandatory necessarily for students. I think some faculty members have really tried to encourage their students to be involved in this, because we knew that this semester was, a challenging one. But at the same time, we also wanted to provide an opportunity for students to feel that community and to be able to perform and to be able to kind of express themselves musically. So we got the word out. We set up a Dropbox and told students if they wanted to perform, they could submit a video, and we would have to curate it, make sure that everything would work, and all of the submissions that were really very, very good. So we had to put a kind of an earlier deadline on it in order to put it all together. But we worked also very closely, and want to just offer our huge thanks to Professor David Stott of the Film and Television program. He and Will are really the co-producers of this concert. And the two of them together really assembled this video, and David was just amazing in what he offered us in putting it together, because you don't want a guitar player like me, trying to stitch together video. But
yes. So I felt like a little bit about that. Our first, the inception of the idea. Absolutely, it was the watching Global Citizen and watching Global Citizen and thinking, Global Citizen had a series of essentially iPhone clips. Most of the people involved, and they were like, a lot of big celebrities, but most of the people involved just looked like effectively they had filmed themselves with a guitar or with a piano on their phone or computer, and then submitted it, and then Lady Gaga and a team of people assembled it in one way or another, and put it together and interspersed it with these touching vignettes about. Sorry, I'm getting text here. touching vignettes about the first responders and healthcare workers, and I thought it would be nice if we created a space where students could, where we could have student performances in a similar kind of similar format, and we could have faculty introduce their students. And we didn't know what we were going to get. We didn't know if we were going to get 5 students or 3 students, or if we were going to get, we thought originally of the idea that we would say that it was curated in case there was material that for whatever reason wasn't ready for the concert or wasn't appropriate for the concert or what have you. In fact, we ended up with the concert, and the interesting thing is this is the first concert we've ever put on where we've seen it. We've now seen the concert, right, because it's all pre-recorded, and we ended up with 110 minutes of content. And again, we would not have been able to do this without David Stott, Professor David Stott, who we reached out to and said, David, we have this idea, and we want to do something like Global Citizen. And he said, Global Citizen was 8 hours. And I said, no, we're not going to do it like the 8-hour Global Citizen. Or Tom said, we're not going to do it like the 8-hour Global Citizen. We're going to do it like the televised version, which is much shorter. And we really didn't know what kind of content we were going to get. But not only did we get great content from students and faculty, but we're really thankful. Tom reached out and got participation from President Paulo Carrillo and Interim Provost Seals, and we just have like this, and our chairperson of Humanities, Dr. And so it's really nice to have for the students to have the support, I think, from the not just us, but from the college community in a time when this semester concert is something. Tom, the spring the student concert is something you instituted 3 years ago. Do you think? Is that sound right?
No, it's been here. We've been doing it for, I'm going to say, at least 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
and maybe longer.
But it was something you put together, the first one, right? Is that?
Yeah. It may even be 6 years. Yeah, because I felt like, we had these, this was before we had the major. Our first major was actually a liberal arts major, or they call it liberal arts music option. So It was a liberal arts degree with a music concentration. It's kind of how I described it. But even before that, we had the voice class, we had piano classes, we had guitar classes, but we didn't really have an outlet for them to perform. So I was like, well, everybody's learning and growing. We should have a performance. There should be something like that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the piece of it. Even as a educator, right? That's the last piece, the performance piece in any discipline.
Yeah.
Where the student learns really the most, right? They have to get up there and do it.
Right.
The thing I tell students, and this is with the music club, good thing about the music club is because they can come up with their own material. And of course, this concert, they were free to come up with whatever they wanted. They could, and there's a few original songs which are really, really nice. But the thing about the music club that I always tell students is performing is very, it's very, how should I say, you can only learn it while you're doing it, and you can do it hundreds of times and learn something every time, thousands of times and learn something every time. Unless you're the Rolling Stones and you're going to get applause no matter what you do, you're always going to go through performances that are like, okay, you're trying to win the audience over, and that's not something that you can just think about. That's something that you have to do in real time. I mean, that's why, the great musicians are known because they toured, 3 shows a week, 300 nights a year for however many years. I mean, it's something that you can't just jump into. It's something that you get through experience. Concerts. This isn't a traditional concert, but it is these concerts are an opportunity for students. I mean, it's very difficult to record, as I was telling Tom for my intro, for my contribution to the concert. It's very difficult, I think, to record a good take of something, and that is going to go into a concert. So even that, it's not being in front of a crowd, but it is an experience of having to complete, really complete something, and really going forward and saying and putting yourself out there, because no performance is, we're human, right? So no performance is
perfect,
is flawless. I mean, maybe Jennifer Hudson is, but most of us, no performance is flawless, and so you have to. So that art of being like, okay, this is good. This is where it needs to be, and I'll work on it next time. But I'm going to put this forward. I mean, that's part of the act of being a musician. I mean, is producing, and I think producing a performance, whether it's in front of people or in this context, is a really important part of putting yourself forward as a musician. And that is, like you said, Hugo, that is the final piece, that you can't just you learn theory, and you learn history, and you learn performance, and you learn technique, and you learn but if your music is an act of sharing and presenting, and so it is the final piece where that sharing and presenting has to happen.
Yes, you can't make art in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. You have without the audience, it isn't done. Mm-hmm. Any personal favorites on tonight's show that any that of what you're expecting to see, what we'll expect to see?
I'll say that I really enjoy. There's a song called "We're Quarantine" by Greg Small. It's an original number that sets it off. It's right after the intros by Professor Dempsey and President Arcario. And that's really nice. And following that, there's another original song called "Climbing." Another, and it's interesting because we're going through a dual crisis now. We were going through just one crisis a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going through a dual crisis. And interestingly, these songs speak to the multitude of things that are going on, even though they were recorded. They were recorded, a month plus ago. They speak to what's going on, and this song, "Keep Climbing, Keep Pushing," it by one of our students, Antonio Legno. Is that right? Do I have his name correct, Tom? Is really great. But there's a number of really, there's a number of really virtuosic performances. Ziling Ma's Rachmaninoff performance is really strong. I mentioned the music club before. There's Amanda Malfitano closes out the show with a solo piano piece that's really strong. There's some percussion pieces that Professor Ingrid Gordon and Professor Kevin McNeil worked with a student, Tiana Langford. Do I have that name right? And those are really great. Those were done in a cappella, so she actually layered 4 different images of herself in synchronization, playing on things like pots and pans to get these percussion performance, and that was really strong. So there's a lot in there. I don't know if there's others that Tom wants to bring in.
No, I would agree with everything Will talked about. To me, the most kind of awesome part of it, as I kind of taken the concert as in its totality, is just the amount of diversity that's in the performances itself. Musical diversity, cultural diversity, all sorts. It's just a very rich concert that I think really speaks to our greater college community, and where we're so fortunate to be able to teach. It's really just an amazing presentation of, in an hour and 10 minutes of really the vastness of what LaGuardia has as far as its student population, and also just the amount of talent and the range of talent too that's all there, and it's all welcome in one place. Like it's not about, whether you've been playing the piano for 20 years or whether you've been playing it for 2 months. If you've got something to say through music, you've got a platform to be able to present that. So.
And so I was just going to ask, the stream starts at 7. Is it something, though, that it becomes available and people can watch at their leisure, or is it like the stream exists in that period of time and then there'll be a playback later? How does it work?
So we will have it archived both on our Facebook page, LAGCC Music, and also our YouTube page for the music program. And so people will be able to watch it off of that as well. We're actually, with the YouTube page, we're going to, I'm learning all these new, now that I have to be in broadcasting, I'm learning all these new terms. So we're premiering video at 7 o'clock, but we're also streaming it at 7 o'clock. So there'll be multiple ways for if people are unable to tune in at 7, you can.
Right. There's going to be a watch party at 7. There's going to be a live stream at 7, but the video is also going to be available at 7 on both platforms. I mean, it's an evolving situation, but our goal is to just try and get it out there in every format possible. And sure, if somebody has to work tonight, but can watch it tomorrow morning, please. We want to make sure that these student performances get out there, and that's we look for odd silver linings in the clouds, and so that's an odd silver lining where we can have this kind of it's a constant you could have the concert. We can have an encore again tomorrow night, and students can get their music seen, which is great.
By the way, we're at the last quarter hour, and Dr. Riccio is usually manning the Twitch stream in case anybody is sending questions. So at this point, feel free to forward any questions. Though I usually save this period before we were able to take questions. I used to save this part of the show for folks to talk about the future. And you can take that any way you want, whether you're thinking in terms of providing, course content for the summer and the fall 2020, because we are all still in this kind of holding pattern to see what's going on with the pandemic. But also in terms of, I think it's, because when you talk about this, I believe that you're going to have probably the largest audience you've ever had as a result of this, unwittingly. I mean, we used to fill up the little theater, but the potential for this is, several hundred people. Many people could watch this, if not live premiered, certainly over time, right?
Sure.
And personally, I will miss what I love about, because I typically attend these things, is I'll miss being on the campus. It's late at night when nobody's around, but this, amazing thing is happening in the little theater. And then you walk out to, if there's nothing, like a ghost town kind of thing. So it's a little funny thing I have. Oh, we actually have a question coming in. But so there's a comment, actually. So let's see what the comment says. But I'll miss that about I always love being on campus at night. So it says, "Hey guys, first off, you're doing a great job." Oh, this is coming from Wavetable Understroke Music, if that means anything to you too. I've been working at LAGCC as a staff member for 2 years now, and I've been very impressed with the music department myself, being a musician, or I guess maybe it's myself being a musician and music aficionado. I would love to see a collaboration between WLGR and the music department on an ongoing basis. Student DJ sets, music talks, live shows, etc. I'd volunteer to be involved, by the way. You're on. I think we say this all the time. Dr. Riccio, the director of the station, program director, or director of the station, let's say that, has put out a college-wide request for possible show content and has had responses, but we're always looking for more. What do you think about that, gentlemen? About
Yeah.
being sewn to the hip with LGR. We could have.
I think it's a great idea and another opportunity. I mean, when we're on campus, and we look forward to returning when we can. When we're on campus, we only so many things can get into the little theater, and so students are always asking me, how can we find another outlet for? How can we find other outlets for performing? So maybe this would be a great way to do it. Yeah.
Saying ta-da! Here we are. We've been waiting for you. It's like build it, they will come.
Right.
That would be, and again, you could be the host. Anybody can be the host. It's not like I'm looking for more work to do. Obviously, I'm looking for more work for Chris, and I'm looking for more content for Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll, if you want me to be a part of that too, like I said, I used to be the MC for Mark. What other ideas are you guys are percolating for the future? I mean, I guess that the question is the delivery of course content as well is a big. Everybody's thinking about that. You gentlemen figured all that out already?
Well, we are offering classes in our spring 2 semester. We have several sections of HUM 101 and our Intro to Music class, and we have one section of HUM 210, which is our American music class. But we're also offering our piano classes, HUM 180, 181, and 182, which is Piano 1, Piano 2, and Piano 3, respectively. All of them are going to be done with distance learning. But our faculty that are going to be teaching these classes now are much more experienced in being able to deliver this content, have figured out different ways to be able to do it. We're still in kind of a holding pattern, waiting and seeing what's going to happen with the fall. But I think, going through this whole process this past semester, one of the things I think that has been really a great thing for the students is to watch. Oftentimes we can, especially I think in the arts, we watch how faculty really become mentors and role models for students and how they adapt, how they, that's why, we're not just musicians who teach in classes. That's why we do the concerts, we perform, we do other kinds of stuff. So to be able to show how we're able to adapt, I think has really been a great thing for students to watch, to understand, like, oh yeah, so being in music, sometimes you have to find new ways to be able to present a concert, to present a class, to present a seminar. You have to find new audiences, and I think watching all of us kind of do it, and sometimes figuring it out in real time, I think has been a real valuable thing for the students to experience over the past several months. So,
being somebody who survived in New York for many years as a professional music professional, having my own business in New York City, and and I could tell you that the nature of being a music professional is being able to change as things are needed, being able to adapt. And adaptability is incredibly important. And so that's, this has put us to the test to adapt. But I think Tom is right. Today was the last day of teaching for the semester. I have, students my students have been through so much over the past few months, and it keeps going. It keeps going for them. And I hope that they are getting the message from me that, whatever life throws at you, you adapt, and this is, we are in this historical moment, and we try to deal with we deal with the moment we're in, and we try and push forward and move forward. And so if the future is, when the future tells us distant, we will continue, and we hope that we're in the little theater, with a live audience very soon, and same thing with our classes. But as we whatever we have to do, we're going to reach the students, and we're going to try and teach them as best we can, and work with them as best we can. And like Tom said, put forward that idea that it's like, being moving with the business and with the times is extremely important. That flexibility to say, okay, well, we got to shift, and we got to shift again. We got to shift again. I mean, having had a business through 9/11 and then through the 2008 financial crisis, those are two moments where you just, things changed. When I started out in this business, I was working for record companies that sold compact discs in stores.
Right.
Our company was located 4 blocks from Tower Records, and I used to go into Tower Records every day to get a pulse of where record sales was. That mobility has changed several times since then. I mean, first it was iTunes and selling digital music, and now it's streaming, and it's changed several times since then. So, as somebody used to teach music business classes, I would tell students just that you're in a constant state of change, and that's the nature of, when music recording first became popular and radio first became popular in the 1920s, there was a big pushback from the musicians union, who said, don't support canned music. There's always change there's always change. There's no, when we look back and say, wow, the age of the album is leaving us. Well, the age of the album really started in the 1950s and 1960s. So it's not something that, nothing was permanent, right? We're in a constant state of change. And so realizing that and adapting to it is more helpful than the woe is me, right? So we just have to be ready to, grab a cup of coffee. Grab a cup of coffee and figure out what's the next. What's the next.
And we're out of time, gentlemen. So, Tom, these are your quick last thoughts. Mostly thank yous. Go ahead if you want to say something. We got about a minute before we'll take it out with some music.
Well, I just wanted to also say that, this concert is really also in the spirit of the show must go on, and the show will always go on in one form or another. So, but anyway, first of all, thanks Hugo and WLGR for having us on, and Dr. Riccio and Christopher and everybody who is associated with it. Big thanks to Will and to David Stott, who really put together this whole concert. From an organizational and programmatic point, and to all the faculty in the music program who really stepped up and provided videos for introductions for student performances, and and also kind of comforting words that are all included in tonight's show, and also big thanks to our president, Dr. Paul Arcaria, our provost, Dr. Nyrita Seals, and our chairperson, Dr. Pyle Doctor, for their contributions to the concert. And of course, we couldn't have done this without the students. And so they're really the stars of tonight's show, and we're so honored to be able to share our experiences in music with them, and to have their musical voices on this concert.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for talking about the program. And good luck tonight for the students. Again, and thanks again to Dr. Stott, David Stott, who put this together. Wish you luck with your film festival as well. I wish you could have been on my show. But folks, you've been watching What's Going On here on LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. My guests today have been Professors Tom Dempsey and Will Fulton of the music program of the Humanities Department, who are putting together a live stream tonight at 7 o'clock. It is the LAGCC Spring Music Showcase at home. And it sounds like it's going to be a great event. And thank you, gentlemen, for being on. And I want to take us out the way we came in with Professor Dempsey. playing a little outro for us. Thanks for listening.